Don't touch her. Williams's voice cracked as he stumbled into the kitchen, his eyes wild. The pot on the stove hissed. Soup boiling over, steam fogging the glass. Evelyn froze, spoon in hand, for the millionaire's baby sitting on the marble table, quiet for first time in months, each opening their mouth as if in prayer. The fourth one whimpered in her arm, tiny fingers clutching her collar. "What did you do to them?" he whispered, like the sight of peace was something unnatural. She didn't answer. She couldn't, because she didn't know either. For 6 months, no nanny, no doctor, no fancy formula could get the Lucas quadruplets to eat. Every woman Williams hired left in tears, defeated by the haunting silence that came after his wife's death. But on this morning, the impossible was happening. The crying had stopped. The spoons were moving. The babies, his sons, were eating. Evelyn James hadn't come here to save anyone. She was just a new cleaning lady, a tired woman from Oakland with 2 aching knees and rent 3 weeks past due. Her job was to scrub, not to soothe. And yet somehow, when she walked into that kitchen humming an old gospel lullaby, something her daughter used to sing, the whole house seemed to breathe again. Williams didn't move from the doorway. His voice was low, almost reverent. "Who are you?" Evelyn looked down at the boys, all 4 watching her like they knew something she didn't. She smiled softly, though her chest ached. "Just to help, sir." But somewhere deep inside she felt it, the strange pull, the unspoken recognition. These weren't just any babies. What Evelyn didn't know yet was that this house, the one with glass walls and billion-dollar secrets, had already taken someone she loved. And by feeding those children, she was feeding a truth that could destroy them all. Before we go further, pause for a second. Have you ever done something kind, something small, and later realized it changed everything? If stories like this one make you reflect on the hidden strength of ordinary people, stay close to us. Subscribe, not out of habit, but because some truths deserve to be carried together. That morning had started like any other. The mansion stood above the bay like a monument to silence, its tall glass windows catching the cold San Francisco light. Inside, Evelyn James, in her crisp blue and white uniform, pushed her cleaning cart through hallways wide enough to swallow her whole. She had cleaned everything from Oakland apartments to downtown law firms, but nothing prepared her for the Lucas estate, or for the children waiting inside. From somewhere beyond the glass stairwell came a sound that didn't belong in a house like this. Laughter. Small, honest, bubbling laughter. The kind that slipped under Evelyn's ribs and tugged at something she hadn't felt in years. She followed it to the kitchen. The 4 high chairs were empty now, but the babies were on the floor with their toys, giggling at something invisible. Evelyn stood there a moment, mop in hand, unsure if she was intruding on a secret she wasn't meant to see. Without thinking, she began to hum. Softly at first, just a thread of melody floating above the hum of the refrigerator. "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine." One by one, the boys turned toward her. Ethan clapped his hands. Caleb let out a squeal. Even the quietest one, James, rocked side to side, eyes fixed on her like he knew every note. Evelyn smiled through the sting behind her eyes. That song, it had followed her all her life. Her daughter Nia used to sing it while washing dishes, or when the power went out, or when life felt too heavy to hold. The door creaked. Williams Lucas stood there, motionless. His expression was unreadable, part awe, part disbelief. "That song," he said finally. His voice sounded like he hadn't used it in days. "My wife used to sing that exact lullaby to them." Evelyn's hand stilled. "Did she?" she whispered. "Funny, that was my daughter's favorite too." For a heartbeat, silence hung between them. 2 losses, circling each other quietly in a kitchen that smelled of soap and soup. "Maybe it's just one of those songs everyone knows," Williams said softly, almost to himself. But something in his face said he didn't believe that. In the days that followed, the house began to change. Maria, the housekeeper, started leaving the radio on again. The gardener whistled while trimming the hedges. Even the air felt lighter. That evening, Evelyn stood by the kitchen door, watching Williams try to feed the babies. He held the spoon gently, like it might shatter, but they only stared past him, waiting. For her. The playroom was quieter than usual that afternoon. The twins had just fallen asleep, their soft breasts floating through the baby monitor like a lullaby Evelyn didn't dare interrupt. She moved carefully through the room, stacking blocks, folding tiny blankets, picking up plush toys that had tumbled from their bin. The house had grown warmer since she arrived. The air didn't feel as heavy anymore. But even in the peace, Evelyn couldn't shake the feeling that something inside this mansion was holding its breath. She bent down to pick up a stuffed elephant. Gray, worn around the ears, one button I'm missing. As she lifted it, something metallic clinked against the hardwood. A small silver locket had been tucked beneath it, half buried in dust. Evelyn turned it over in her gloved hand. The surface was scratched but elegant, the kind of jewelry too personal to be decoration. She hesitated, then thumbed it open. Inside was a photograph. Her heart stuttered. It was Nia, her baby girl, smiling that easy, dimpled smile, wearing her nursing scrubs. The background behind her wasn't a hospital, though. It was this house, the Lucas Mansion. Evelyn's knees nearly gave out. She sat hard on the floor, the locket trembling in her fingers. The same tall windows, the same front gates. Nia's braid draped over her shoulder, just like it had the morning she left. A memory rose sharp as glass. "Ma, it's just a few weeks," Nia had said, brushing Evelyn's cheek with her thumb. "It's a good family, real good money. A nanny job in the city. I'll send for you when I get settled." Evelyn had laughed, told her to keep her pepper spray, and to never trust anyone too nice too fast. That was 2 years ago. 2 birthdays missed. 2 years of silence. Now her picture was here. Evelyn's breath came shallow as she rose, clutching the locket. She found Maria in the hall, folding laundry near the linen closet. "Maria," Evelyn said, her voice low but trembling. "This locket, where did it come from?" Maria froze. For a second, she didn't look up. Then she exhaled, eyes glistening. "Miss Nia," she whispered. "She worked here. Before the accident. Before everything changed." Evelyn felt the world tilt. The mansion seemed to hum, every shadow watching her. She looked down at Nia's face one more time. The smile, the promise, the hope frozen in silver. Her voice cracked as she whispered into the quiet hall. "What did you do, baby?" The evening settled over the mansion like fog, soft, quiet, and heavy with things unsaid. Williams had invited Evelyn to sit for coffee in the kitchen after the babies went down. His eyes looked tired, older than his years, as he stared into the cup between his hands. "She's been gone 8 months, he said quietly. "Hannah, my wife." Evelyn nodded, her fingers tracing the rim of her mug. "They said it was a single-car accident," he went on. "Late at night. Wet roads. She lost control near the bridge." He swallowed hard, his jaw tightening. "I thought that was the end of it." But his voice betrayed something else, doubt. Later that night, after Williams went upstairs, Evelyn lingered in the kitchen. The locket weighed in her pocket, like a secret too loud to hide. She couldn't sleep. Something about his story gnawed at her. On the counter, under a pile of unopened mail, a folded newspaper caught her eye. The headline was faded but legible. "Billionaire's wife killed in late-night crash. 2 passengers believed to be in vehicle." 2 passengers. Evelyn's pulse quickened. The article ended with a correction scribbled in pen. Only 1 body recovered. Her chest went tight. 2 passengers. Only 1 body. That was when she saw the light under the office door. Faint. Flickering. She hesitated, then pushed it open. The room smelled of paper and cedar. Williams's desk was neat, except for 1 folder lying open. The label read, "Confidential, Lucas Family Estate, May 2024. Evelyn's hands shook as she lifted it. Inside were printed security stills, grainy black and white frames from a mansion's cameras. The first photo showed Nia in her nurse scrubs, holding one of the babies near the kitchen window. She was smiling, her head bent close, her love so clear it hurt to look at. The next frame, Hannah in the background, watching, her arms crossed, her mouth pressed in. Photo after photo. The tension grew in the stills. Nia played with the babies, Hannah standing behind her, closer each time, her face harder to read. Then came the final image. Nia's hand rested on the high chair, mid-laugh. Hannah stood directly behind her, her eyes locked, not on Nia, not on the children, but straight into the camera. Evelyn froze. The expression was unmistakable. Not surprise, not curiosity. It was a glare, cold, knowing, as if Hannah Lucas had seen the lens and wanted whoever was watching to understand. She knew. The next morning, the air in the mansion felt heavier. Even the sunlight filtering through the glass walls seemed muted, as if the house itself knew something was unraveling. Evelyn couldn't keep still. The folder's images burned behind her eyes. Nia laughing, Hannah watching, that final glare. Maria was in the laundry room, folding towels that didn't need folding. Her hands moved too fast, her eyes too bright. Evelyn closed the door behind her. "Maria," she said softly, "I found the photos. Of my daughter." Maria's fingers froze mid-fold. For a long moment, she didn't breathe. Then she whispered, "You shouldn't have gone in there." Evelyn stepped closer, her voice trembling but steady. "You knew her. You knew Nia." Maria turned away, pressing a towel to her chest like it might hold her together. "I didn't want to lie," she said. "But after what happened, no one was supposed to speak her name." Evelyn's heart pounded. "What happened?" Maria's eyes filled. "Mrs. Lucas. She changed after the babies were born. The night nurse quit, the house got quiet, and then Miss Nia came. The children loved her, really loved her. They'd reach for her, even when their mother was in the room." She paused, her voice cracking. Mrs. Lucas couldn't stand it. She said Nia was trying to replace her. Evelyn felt her stomach twist. "She fired her, didn't she?" Maria nodded slowly. 3 days before the accident. But that night, after the charity gala, Miss Nia came back. She said she just wanted to say goodbye to the boys. Mrs. Lucas had been drinking. She told Nia she'd never let that girl take her family. Maria's voice broke. "I heard them arguing in the foyer. I should have stopped them. But the next thing I saw, they were getting into the car together. Hannah in her gown, Nia still in her scrubs. Only one car left that driveway." The silence that followed felt endless. Evelyn's hands trembled as she reached into her pocket, clutching the silver locket. "Did anyone ever look for her?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Maria shook her head. "They said there was nothing left to find. That only one woman died that night." Tears slid down her cheeks. "But I always knew. Both of them vanished. Just one name was allowed to stay." Evelyn's throat burned. She stared past Maria, toward the window where the fog rolled in over the bay. "They said it was an accident," she murmured. "But accidents don't bury evidence. Some truths come too late for the people who needed them most. If you've ever wanted justice for someone who can't speak anymore, don't just keep scrolling. Stay. Subscribe. Because remembering their names is how we keep them alive." The house slept. Only the hum of the refrigerator and the faint rhythm of the ocean beyond the hill broke the silence. Evelyn stood in the kitchen, her palms damp, her heart thudding in her chest. On the counter sat a small plastic bag, sealed tight. Inside, one of Ethan's pacifiers. She stared at it for a long time before picking up her phone. Her fingers hovered over the contact number for the private lab in Oakland, one she knew from cleaning offices nearby. They'd run tests quietly, no questions asked. "I just need to know," she whispered to herself. "Please, Lord, just let me know." The next morning, she mailed the sample. Then came the waiting. 3 days. 3 days that felt like years. Every sound made her jump. The buzz of her phone, the creak of the stairs, the laughter of the babies echoing through the hall. She smiled for them, sang to them, even played peekaboo, but inside she was unraveling. By the 4th evening, the email arrived. Her hands trembled so badly she almost dropped the phone. She opened it slowly, her breath caught between hope and dread. Result: 50% genetic match, mitochondrial link confirmed. Subject identified: Ethan Lucas. Relation: grandparent. Evelyn stared at the words until they blurred. Nia didn't just love these babies. She didn't just feed them or hold them. She gave birth to them. The room tilted. Evelyn gripped the counter, her vision swimming. As a sob clawed up from somewhere deep inside her, she slid to the floor, the phone still glowing in her hand. Tears spilled freely, hot and soundless. Her daughter had been here. Her daughter had been used here. And these little boys, these sweet, hungry babies, were her blood. My grandbabies, she gasped, the words breaking apart in her throat. Oh, my God, all this time. She pressed her palms to her face, her shoulders shaking as quiet sobs filled the empty kitchen. Footsteps sounded behind her. Evelyn. Williams's voice, low and uncertain. Are you all right? She scrambled to her feet, swiping her tears, the phone slipping into her apron pocket. Just tired, she whispered, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Williams hesitated, then nodded, stepping closer to check the stove. The baby stirred faintly upstairs. When he turned away, Evelyn's gaze drifted to the ceiling, her heart shattering all over again. My grandbabies, she whispered, voice trembling like prayer. All this time. The night smelled like rain and steel, sharp, uneasy. Evelyn stood in the center of the gleaming kitchen, her apron still on, her hands trembling around a folded sheet of paper. Williams entered behind her, loosening his tie, exhaustion carved into his face. We need to talk, she said. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were glassy with fire. He frowned. Evelyn, what is it? She unfolded the paper and slid it across the counter. It's a DNA report. I sent Ethan's pacifier to a lab in Oakland. He blinked, confused. Why would you? Because I had to know the truth, she cut in. They're not Hannah's babies. Her voice cracked. They're my daughters. Nia's. Silence. Just the ticking of the kitchen clock and the hum of the refrigerator. William stared at the paper. His lips parted, but no words came. Finally, he sank into a chair, his face pale as ash. I didn't know, he whispered. Evelyn, I swear to you I didn't know. Hannah, she said we found a donor through a fertility clinic in Palo Alto. She wanted children more than anything. I thought it was all above board. Evelyn's hands clenched at her sides. You mean to tell me my child carried 4 babies, and no one told her what they were doing? You mean she was erased from her own bloodline? Williams looked up, guilt flooding his eyes. Hannah handled everything. The contracts, the doctor, the arrangements. I didn't ask questions I should have. I trusted her. By the time I realized something was wrong. He stopped. A low rumble of tires outside cut through the moment. Headlights washed over the kitchen windows. Williams turned toward the sound, his brow furrowing. Who the hell? 2 men in black suits stepped to the back door, their movements clean, controlled. Mr. Lucas. One said, Cooley. The trustees asked us to resolve the situation. There's concern about a breach of confidentiality. Evelyn stepped back, her heart pounding. You stay away from me. The taller man reached for her arm. Ma'am, you need to come with us. The baby's cries erupted from upstairs. All 4, screaming in perfect, terrified unison. Let her go. Williams roared, slamming his fist against the counter. You touch her again, and you'll never work in this city. Get out now. The men hesitated, then retreated, tension thick as smoke. Moments later, Williams threw a blanket over each sleeping baby, carrying them gently to the car. Evelyn followed, tears streaking her face. As they drove down the hill, the mansion loomed in the rearview mirror, silent, glowing, and full of ghosts. Evelyn looked back once and whispered, We're going home, my babies. Grandma's got you now. 3 weeks later, the sterile chill of the San Francisco family court clung to Evelyn's skin like fog. She stood beside Williams at the long wooden table, her hands folded tightly in front of her, knuckles pale. The room hummed with whispers, lawyers, clerks, spectators drawn by the scandal surrounding a billionaire, a missing woman, and 4 miracle babies. The judge entered, her expression unreadable. Let's proceed. One by one, the truths Evelyn had carried in silence were laid bare. First came the DNA report. projected on the screen. The words 50% biological match glowing like a wound reopened. Evelyn's breath hitched as the courtroom murmured. Next, Maria's affidavit was read aloud. Her voice, recorded weeks earlier, cracked through the speakers. Miss Nia loved those babies. She didn't know what the clinic had done. She didn't know she was being used. A wave of emotion rippled across Evelyn's face. She stared at the floor, jaw trembling. Then came the documents, the altered contract from the fertility clinic, riddled with forged signatures and medical jargon designed to confuse, manipulate, erase. Even the judge frowned, tapping her pen sharply against the bench. "Mr. Lucas," she said, "you are unaware of the illegal surrogacy?" Williams rose, his voice hoarse. "Your Honor, I didn't know. I trusted my wife. I failed to see what she hid from me. And Nia," his voice broke. "She's gone because of choices she didn't fully understand." Evelyn lifted her eyes. For the first time, she saw a man not wealthy, not powerful, just broken. The judge cleared her throat. "The court finds overwhelming evidence that Ms. Nia James was misled into an unlawful surrogacy arrangement. Her mother, Evelyn James, is hereby recognized as the rightful maternal guardian of the children alongside their father, William Lucas." A gasp flickered through the courtroom. Evelyn swayed slightly, gripping the table. Williams turned toward the bench again. "Your Honor, I want to say something on record." The judge nodded. He looked at Evelyn, then at the gallery. "These boys, they wouldn't have survived without her. They wouldn't sleep. They wouldn't smile. They wouldn't even eat." His voice grew thick with emotion. "Evelyn isn't just their grandmother. She's the reason they have life." A single tear slid down Evelyn's cheek. She didn't wipe it away. The judge folded her hands. "In light of the evidence in Mr. Lucas's testimony, joint custody is granted. Additionally, Evelyn James will be legally recognized as the children's godmother and familial guardian." The gavel struck. Evelyn closed her eyes. For the first time in months, the truth didn't hurt. It healed. 6 months passed, and the Lucas mansion no longer looked like a museum of grief. Sunlight spilled to the hallways like warm honey, touching every corner that had once felt cold. Laughter, real round-bellied baby laughter, bounced off the marble floors. The staff smiled again. Even the air felt different, as though the house itself had finally exhaled. Evelyn now lived in the guest house, a cozy space Williams remodeled for her with soft yellow curtains and a porch swing she used every morning. But most days, she could be found right where she belonged, back in the kitchen, apron tied, humming to herself. This Sunday morning was no different. A gentle breeze drifted through the open windows as Evelyn stirred her signature soup, the scent of garlic and thyme filling the room. Behind her, William sat cross-legged on the kitchen floor, for tiny boys crawling all over him like he was a jungle gym. Ethan tugged at his hair. Blake slapped his cheeks. Caleb tried to crawl up his back. James sat comfortably in his lap, chewing on a wooden spoon. Their giggles swirled to the kitchen like music. Evelyn turned, wiping her hands on her apron. "Lord, William, those boys are going to take you out before your 50th birthday." He laughed, breathless. "If they do, at least I'll go happy." On the wall above them hung new photo frames, bright golden, lovingly placed. Nia's face smiled from every one of them, holding a newborn, wearing her nursing scrubs, hugging Evelyn on her graduation day. Her presence finally had a place in a home she'd once walked through unseen. Evelyn touched her fingers lightly to one frame as she passed, her heart swelling, not with sorrow, but with peace. She began humming, "You Are My Sunshine," soft and warm. The boys' heads all turned at once. Their giggles softened into a quiet, almost reverent calm. They crawled toward her, gathering around her feet as if pulled by the sound of something ancient and familiar. Williams watched from the doorway now, leaning against the frame. The morning light haloed around Evelyn as she stirred the pot, humming, rocking slightly side to side with 4 little boys swaying along. His voice was barely above a whisper. "Who are you?" Evelyn looked over her shoulder, eyes shining. "Just somebody who loves him enough to stay. If the story touched you, even for a second, carry it with you. Because somewhere out there, Someone like Evelyn is still fighting to be seen, still holding someone else's child with a heart full of love. Subscribe, not for content, but for connection, for stories that remind us that love, not money, defines family. Love doesn't ask where you come from. It just shows up, holds a spoon steady, and feeds what's hungry.